Welcome to the Rasikanand podcast, a daily spiritual podcast for spiritual seekers. We invoked the prayer Om Shanti together. Peace. When can we become peaceful? There was a great king named Parikshit Maharaj who was very busily engaged in all of the affairs of his kingdom. But one day, in the pursuit of his duties, he was cursed by the son of a Brahmin to die in 7 days. Immediately he became very peaceful. He understood that life is temporary, we're all going to die. And so he thought, what should I do with my remaining time? He gave up all his duties. He walked away from everything and sat down on the bank of the river Ganga. And he thought, now, what does a man do who knows that he will die? What is his duty? And praying to God for divine guidance, very shortly after, a great sage known as Sukadev Goswami was walking as a naked 16-year-old boy, completely oblivious to the world. He appeared. Before that, all the sages from around the world had arrived, understanding that this great king, the king of the world at that time, Parikshit Maharaj, had sat down, given up the kingdom, and sat down for 7 days on the bank of the river Ganga, preparing to die. So everyone assembled. The great sage Sukadev, he was given the prominent position. He was arranged a raised seat. They honored him and he sat down, and they all very peacefully heard for 7 days and nights. What is the duty of the soul? How can we develop relationship with God or with the absolute truth? How can we make our lives meaningful beyond the temporary realities of attachments to physical body and sense of self and possessiveness around worldly affairs? So this is how we can become peaceful here. So this is a podcast for spiritual people who understand there's more to life than the material body and possessions related to the material body and experience of this world. There's something deeper. There's a spiritual essence in us that is the animating principle of life. This is called divine consciousness. It is consciousness that is the animating force combined with divine energy. Consciousness is Chit, Ananda, energy, power, love. It's a very deep philosophical subject matter. We're not going to go into this in depth at this point. But in essence, the conscious principle is coming from God. We are part and parcel of the absolute truth, supreme personality, supreme source, in 3 features as the super soul, as the impersonal, all-pervasive spiritual force of the Brahman, and as Bhagavan, the ultimate conception of the Godhead. We are part and parcel of that absolute truth, as Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamai Vangso Jiva. Living entities are my angsa, my part and parcel. So we are conscious. And that awareness within us through which we see and hear and feel and experience the world through the body and the senses and the mind. That conscious particle of divine spirit also has energy. It's Sat Chit Ananda, eternal existence, eternal consciousness, and bliss. Sat is the foundation of everything, of your existence. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Natvevaham jatu nasam natam neme janadipa nachaive nabhavishyama sarvivayam mataparam. What is Sat existence? O Arjuna, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. And never in the future shall any of you cease to be. That is Satta, eternal existence. Krishna further says in the Bhagavad Gita, Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata. Uvayorapi drishtantas tvanayos tattva darshibi. Those who have seen the truth and who abide in the truth, they understand that that which is temporary shall never be eternal, and that which is eternal never is temporary. The soul is eternal, the body and its relationships are temporary. That is truth, that is satta. Consciousness means, mamai vangso, Krishna says, you are part and parcel. Vibhinangsa tattva. Vibhina means infinitesimal spark of the infinite divine. Like a spark of the great fire of all existence, of all being. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mata parataram tanye, everything rests upon me like pearls strung upon a thread, and yet I exist in my own eternal abode. How can we make relationship with our soul to the Supreme Soul in our relationship with divine existence? Therefore, we have to understand relationship. In Sanskrit, this is known as sambandha. Relationship. Without family, what is the question of relationship? So the topic for today's episode is family, spiritual family. And the title for this episode is Flowers, Fragrance, and Spiritual Family. And so I'll cover the topic of how I came to live in my Gurudev's monastery for 16 years in Vrindavan and Mathura, and all of the spiritual family members I met there. This is a very deep subject matter. Generally in life, we see things only on their superficial, surface level. I am from this place, I went to that place, I met these people, right? In Hindi, since we have our family member here, spiritual family here, who I also shared time with in Mathura Vrindavan, our dear Pran Krishna Prabhu's home with Gopika Didi. So I'll say a Hindi saying, right? So just for those viewing and listening, I welcome you. Sometimes I'm giving these episodes in the privacy of an intimate setting of a room, speaking directly to you, into your ear. And sometimes I'm giving public addresses, or in a family home setting, or in a lecture hall, or in a conversation or interviews. This week we'll be having some sit-downs, one-on-one conversations with different professionals in this service of our Sri Guru. But there's one Hindi saying, Ekta Raja, Ekta Rani, Dono Mar Gaya, Khatam Kahani. You want to know what it means? Once there was a king, and he had a queen. Both of them died. That's the end of the story. This is material life, right? As a little girl, we think I will be a princess, and a little boy thinks I'm a prince. And you go to school and you think I will become a king, and she raises up and I will be a queen. And you find king and queen come together and you live out your life, and you pass away into the next birth and life. End of the story. There is no happily ever after until you realize the soul's relationship with God. That's happily ever after. What is spiritual family? That is the topic today. What is spiritual family? Your family is also spiritual if you become spiritual, or if they are spiritual and make you spiritual, then everything becomes spiritual, because everything is spiritual. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Brahmarpabam, Brahmahavir, Brahmayagya, everything is Brahman. In the Vedanta Sutras described, Pranamay Brahma, Annamay Brahma, Manomay Brahma, Vijnanamay Brahma, Anandamay Brahma. This, that, everything is spiritual. But yet our consciousness is stuck in the mud of of material attachment and material absorption and cannot see the spiritual presence within everything. Therefore, when Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vidyavinaya sampane brahmani gavihastani sunichaiva swapakecha pandita samadarshina. A wise person sees the soul within everything, within the elephant, within the scholar or the ordinary person, within the dog or the dog eater. He sees the soul. Within the blade of grass, within the tree, within the earth itself. So there are different kinds of energies. This is where it gets a little philosophical. There's the material energy and the spiritual energy. And there is us, the soul, described to be the marginal potency or the marginal energy. But we are Sat, Chit, Ananda. We described Sat, we described Chit. What is Ananda? There is no spirituality without Ananda. Understand? What is Ananda? Generally, spirituality focuses on Sat and Chit, the teacher and God, the messenger and God. What is Ananda? Without understanding Ananda, there's no true spirituality. Ananda means relationship. Ananda is energy and love, power. What is Ananda? Anandamaya Abhyasat, 12th aphorism Vedanta Sutra. Ananda is that which God himself is always absorbed in. Anandamoy, Anandamoy, Anandamoy. Again and again in the scriptures it said Anandamoy. The Lord is always immersed in bliss. When were you happiest in life? When you're in a loving relationship, in some connection, some experience, some interchange of mood or relationship. So the Lord also has his Ananda potency. And the Jiva also has that Ananda principle within. We are not only Sat and Chit, or Sat, Chit, Ananda. So in our Bhakti Yoga Vedantic tradition, which is recognized as the most authorized presentation of the Vedic literature in its innermost essence, Sat refers to Balaram, who is the original Guru and the first expansion of the Lord. Self-same. Krishna representing Chit. Balaram represents Satta, existence itself. Krishna represents Chit, divine consciousness. Balaram and Krishna are the same, and yet the difference is Balaram is Ashray, Jatiya, Bhagavan, which means God in the mood of the servant, the manifester of the desire from the vision or Ichcha, desire of Krishna. Krishna means the all-attractive reservoir of pleasure. But what is Ananda? In this world, most religions, they have a messenger and they have God. Balaram represents Guru, the messenger. So we have Christianity, and you have Jesus, Christ, and God, Father, Son. What is the Holy Spirit? It's very vague. Islam, Allah, Muhammad, messenger and God, Guru and God. Judaism, look at the different world religions. In Vedic traditions, there's an understanding of the principle of Ananda, which is why if you look at the bona fide traditions that understand the proper conception of spirituality according to the Vedic principles, they understand that God is not alone. This is the principle of Ananda. The principle of Ananda in the highest aspect is known as Sri Radha. We've been discussing this in the previous episodes. Satchidananda. So the jiva, which is the marginal energy, living entity. Energy refers to Sri Radha. She is the ultimate source of all divine energy. Chitta is consciousness, Krishna. Sri Radha is energy, the potency by which God's desires are fulfilled. Right? That is Ananda. That which fulfills the desires of the beloved, the pleasure-giving potency. That is Ananda, Swarup Shakti, Shrimati Radhika. Our Gurudev would say, God is not alone. God is one. But Gurudev said one means O-N-E, three, the Trinity. And then he explained this as Krishna, Radha, and the Jiva, the living entity, the soul. And he said, but even better is Sanskrit, Eka, Radha and Krishna. So if you were to understand it in its deepest ontological position of what is reality, there's the feminine and the masculine, dual, monotheistic tradition, right? This is monotheism. Why? Again, in the Vedantic literature it says, Shakti Shakti Matora Beda. The masculine and the feminine are the two halves of the absolute truth in its divine highest state. That is Sri Radha and Sri Krishna. Therefore, it said all the Shaktis ultimately come from Swarup Shakti. The marginal potency is not independent of the Swarup Shakti. There's expansion. It has its same ontological root. This is Satchidananda. Now, within Vedic traditions and Vaishnava traditions, we see worship of Sita Ram, Lakshmi Narayan, Radha Krishna, Parvati Shiv. This is balanced spirituality. But in the world today, in many of the major religions, we don't find this balanced spirituality. We find primarily patriarchal approach, which is not wrong, but without the full equation, it can become unbalanced. What happens when there is not balance? This leads to chaos and disorder. In a bodily system, leads to disease. And in society, it leads to disease. And what is the cause? What is the result of disease? Pain, suffering, death. So without understanding the Ananda principle and coming into the service of the Ananda principle, we are only serving the disease. We are not serving the spiritual solution to all of the troubles we face in the world today. So this podcast, a lot of it is about problem solving in terms of spirituality, in terms of the situation we face in the world, different problems. So that's why in the first episode, I talked about the inspiration for the podcast. And we talked about lion-like love. That is the testament of divine love spoken by Sri Radha to Sri Krishna when he asked her in disguise, why do you love me? Why do you love him, she said, because he approached her in a disguise. He said, why do you love that naughty Krishna? Krishna is always causing you trouble. Saying one thing, doing something else. Why do you love that Krishna? Sri Radha, in these 8 or 10 verses, spoke a truth that if it was followed by the world today, there would be no problems. That truth that she spoke, that is our testament, that is our motto, that is our mission statement. She spoke, what is the Ananda principle? What does it mean, Anandamaya? What is Ananda? Krishna gave so many reasons to Radharani why she should not love him. Because he wanted to know. He wanted to understand her love. That's why later he came as Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with her mood, begging her mood, try to understand her love. So she responded that the nature of someone who has love, truly, is they want to please or give happiness to their beloved. They're not concerned about their own happiness, nor are they averse to it. Therefore, when they give happiness to their beloved and they see their beloved happy, this causes their joy to increase even more than it would be possible for you to be happy on your own, satisfying your own desires. Therefore, when Mahaprabhu came to try to understand her mood, he prayed with her mood. Najani apani sukh, sabhivancha tara sukh. I don't know of my own happiness, O Lord. I only know of your happiness. That is the nature of love. Your happiness is my happiness. To the extreme extent that if it gives you happiness to cause me pain, that is still my happiness. So therefore, love knows no opposition. This is what Sri Radha next said. She said, love is like a lion that devours any obstacle in its path, like a lion eats an elephant, and it becomes more strong. She said, love disregards dog-like obstacles. Just as a lion pays no attention to barking dogs, doesn't waste its time. She said, love is like a lamp that shines brightest the darker the hour. She said, love sleeps with great peace and confidence and grace, like a lion sleeps in the open, with no walls, no door, no guard. Love is its own guard. She said that love overcomes all obstacles, even the most insurmountable in appearance. She said obstacles as great as Mount Sumeru. Mount Sumeru is a Vedic divine mountain. You can imagine as hundreds of times greater than the Himalayas, Mount Everest. So she said love overcomes all the obstacles from family and friends, or from enemies, or from society, or from karma, destiny, or even obstacles caused by the own beloved. And then she says, love is more powerful, burns with more force than the sun, and is more cooling and nectarful than the moon. Why? This is the Ananda principle. You think God is great, right? God is very great. What is more powerful than God? The love of His pleasure potency, Sri Radha. So now we're going to speak a little bit about my experience living in India and how can we ourselves become more rooted in true spirituality that can give us great power and energy to serve in our lives, in our days, in whatever we do, right? Like scientists are looking for fusion, right? Why we have energy problems, California especially. Energy problems. They don't serve the Ananda principle. Even if you talk about money, this is called Lakshmi, the energy of the Lord. Lakshmi, or money, is described to be feminine. Why? She is an energy with which you can serve God. So people who have money problems, this means you need to serve Ananda. Or, like me, no money, then no problem. Money, many problems. No money, every tree is your roof, right? Every street is your walkway, right? Every place is your home. We're celebrating the appearance day of our beloved Trivikram Goswami Maharaj, someone that was a very dear father figure for me, like a big father, uncle. So speaking about spiritual family, when I joined the monastery, even before that, actually when I was a young boy, just coming to India the first time, and the second time, and he would give medicine, and I described this story today. So he asked my father, "Who is this boy?" I was just a little kid. I said, "Oh, he is my son." He says, "No, he's not. Don't speak lies." Harishchandra, you think you're speaking the truth, but don't think of things in material terms. You should say, "Oh, he's part of our spiritual family." Then I have some relation with him also, but I have relation with God and Guru, right? He said, he's our family, just like you are our family. We have to broaden our circle of understanding and deepen our spiritual understanding of what is real family, spiritual family. So we learn in this way about what does it mean to have relationship. Without serving Ananda, there's no question of sambandha or relationship. You have to understand this tattva, this truth, in order to enter the family of the Lord. So I went back and forth almost every year as a young boy and then a teenager. And my Gurudev had always told me that I want you to join my mission, live in my monastery, become a monk. Year after year after year. So much that everyone in my community supported this idea. To the effect that even when I passed a note once with the girl, right? "Oh, you're sweet. Everything is sweet." No. I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" Gurudev said, "You're a brahmachari. What are you doing?" So you see how strong the influence of Gurudev's Gita was. That my parents, my teachers, everyone said, "Hey, don't pass notes with girls." I was 13, 14, right? They didn't let me get past that stage. "What are you doing?" So I was always meditating on this mood of Gurudev wants this. So how can I offer my life into his service, into the service of Sri Krishna, fulfill his desire? I remember when I'd finished school, so we decided to stay in India for 6 months. 6 months. 6 months is a long time. A moment with a Vaishnav can change your life. We have a very beautiful verse. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastri Koi, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. An 11th of a second of the association of a saintly devotee of the Lord can give you all perfection.